we want to go into now is the question, well, if God is so good, this all looks pretty good to me, what about evil? And you know what? This is a very tough question. And there are no pat answers. Each one of us has to wrestle this through in our own hearts. But I'd like to share some ideas tonight that I hope will help you think about these ideas in a new way, in a fresh way. May not be that new because I'm actually going to be drawing on some pretty familiar metaphors. When we go back and really look at this wonderful sense of the expansive terms for God, can we see anything in here that would be the cause of suffering, the cause of disease, the cause of death, the cause of lack, the cause of heartache? If love never changes, could love cause sorrow or grief? If life is an uninterrupted principle, can it ever end? Can it be lacking in vitality? Can it ever have a lack of supply? Does truth ever change? Can it ever cause something the opposite of it? And the answer is no. God cannot be the cause of the suffering we experience. So, what are we experiencing? Well, here's where a very old metaphor has meant a lot to me. And it's the metaphor of light and shadow. Well, you're with me in my family room and kitchen, and you can see in it that I have some other things in it that we'll pan the camera in just a minute to see that we have a couch and lamps and some artwork, just kind of within my little family room area. Now, they're all lit up right now. It's very easy to see them, but if I were to turn off all the lights at night, and it gets very dark here, you would not be able to see any of these things that are right here. So if I came down in the middle of the night and I couldn't see my couch and my lamps and my artwork, would I have to go out and buy a new couch, more artwork, more lights? No. What I need is not more of what I have, but I need light to see what is already there. What I have is in shadow. What I need is light. And here's where a wonderful, beautiful simile from the Bible, that Christ, it's a metaphor, is the light of the world. The light of the world. Christ is what helps us see whatever it is that's been in shadow. Now, the life and ministry and teaching of Jesus embodied this Christ light. It brought to light health, restored relationships, supply, sometimes in situations that had been lacking for years. This wonderful sense of the Christ illuminating for us what has always been there and also destroying the shadows that have been concealing it. Both is going on. Whatever we feel has been lost is like my couch right here in my kitchen. It hasn't been lost, but shadows may be concealing it. Maybe the shadow of fear, maybe the shadow of doubt, the shadow of regret, sorrow, guilt. Christ comes to eliminate those shadows and reveal what has always been there. So sometimes I'm queried, okay, well, where did the shadows come from? And that, again, I love the metaphor of light here, because if we were to talk about the light coming from the ceiling over here, well, if I turn my back to it, I will find all I'm looking at are shadows, right? So it's only when I turn from the shadows to the light that I lose the shadows and my whole vision is filled with light. What prayer is this turning from shadow to light. Prayer helps us move in a whole different direction, to let us get out of our own way and let that light of Christ, with its source in God, its source in all this good, come and show us what we have been missing. So this is really that question, what is prayer and what does it do? Because there are many, many forms of prayer, and they're common to all religions across the world. So let's dive a little deeper into understanding how to get a better sense of what prayer is, help us turn back to the light. Whether it's petition, which is a general sense of asking for someone out there to help us and intervene in the problems we have right here. Whether it's repetition, which is often done in fellowship where we repeat familiar words together. Whether it's thanksgiving, or prayer, or communing, or listening, or affirming, all of these are forms of prayer. And they turn us back to God if we're willing to let our heart and mind change. And that's really that Christ acting in our life to turn us, to be attracted to the light and turning back to God. The willingness is key, because we can repeat all the words out there, we can make all the petitions out there, we can even be thankful, but if our heart isn't in it, if we're just going through the motions, we're not going to find it's turning us back to all that God is and all that God gives. What I'm often asked, and quite a few of the questions that came in were about, tell me why bad things have happened. I like to use another familiar metaphor, and that is, it's one very vivid to me as I live up here on Cape Cod and I go for a walk on the beach and I look out at Nantucket Sound. Beautiful, beautiful expanse of water. But it's got a very flat horizon. I mean, flat. My eyes are telling me it's flat. I feel that I'm on a stable earth and I'm watching the sun go up and down. These are all the experiences of my five senses, and yet they're entirely wrong. Or let's say they're misperceptions, limited perceptions of what is actually going on. What is actually going on is I live on a round earth, right? And it's governed by laws. And if I tried to come up with scientific theories about why the earth is flat, I couldn't do it. It's misperceptions that I'd be trying to explain having a valid cause. But if I get a higher view and see the whole earth, I will understand the laws in operation. My whole perspective changes. And that's really what prayer does. It lifts us to a higher perspective. They're not two earths, a flat earth and a round one. There's just one earth, a flat or limited perspective and an unlimited, clear, scientific perspective. In the same way, I can't explain why there is a reason for suffering. There is no spiritually scientific way to explain such limitation. But by taking us back to a higher view and sourcing our outlook in what God is, we begin to see things differently. That there is no interruption in life, in truth, in love. There's no interruption. We learn it first beyond what we can see and feel, but it, like the wind having tangible effect on that boat and on the trees, we can feel it in our lives. One of the aspects of prayer that troubles people today is how people hear the answers to prayer. Now, some people pray in all these different ways and feel there's an answer that has come into their life that has brought healing and restoration and reformation. And it's really been something that has not just blessed them, but blessed everyone around them. But other people say that the answer to their prayer has brought about harm or hurt to themselves or others. Is God the source of both answers? Well, you know, Jesus gave us a marvelous scientific test to see whether we are illumined by the light or still searching through the shadows. And he said, by their fruits you shall know them. A good tree brings forth good fruit. An evil diseased, corrupt tree brings forth evil, diseased, or corrupt fruit. By their fruits. We're either in the light or we're still stuck in the shadow. So wonderful discerning as we're listening to prayer. Do we feel it's connected to all that God is?